He's always traveling to other states because of his kind of job. So my mom does the dealing with us, and he's mostly not around. It's I and my elder sister that really received premium beating. when we Hi guys, how you guys doing? Good cold morning to everybody. It's raining. I hope you guys are safe. I hope you guys are doing good. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk with Queen Rafi. I'm your host, Queen Rafi, and I think this is like the fourth episode if I'm not mistaken. Guys, if you've seen the previous videos, I have no idea why you're not subscribed yet. Please do well to hit the subscribe button right now somewhere below. Please and thank you. Today, we have a very interesting topic. This topic is very interesting and very emotional at the same time. Today's topic is parenting. It's supposed to be general parenting, but because we're in Africa, I would always want us to relate to, parenting as an African child or your experience as a child being, taken care of by an African parent. I was opportune to have lots of people drop lots of their, childhood experiences with their parents and stuff. I haven't read any of them. I want us to have it, to read it together so that we can have, original and natural reactions to most of the stories. Personally, for me, I grew up in a big family. I come from a family of 6 children with my parents. It's a very big family. And I'd really want to give kudos to my parents because, come to think of it, these days not a lot of people can take care of children that's beyond 1 or 2. Some even have 2 children and are barely able to, properly care for them in terms of finance, emotional wise, and everything. But my parents managed to train 6 children. It wasn't all rosy. If I say it was all rosy, then it would be a big lie. There were times when I felt like the least favorite child. There were times when I felt like, let me just do it and survive and just be there. But it doesn't change the fact that I was given the basic needs as a child. We were properly taken care of financially, morally, emotionally, everything. Like I feel like because how I am today, 80% of it goes back to how I was trained. I have 2 elder brothers, and for everyone who has elder brothers, you know what it means to have an elder brother in your house. And so I literally had like 3 fathers, my dad and 2 of my older brothers. It was tough, but I'm still grateful for, I'm just one of the people who are opportune to have a good, parent-child relationship. But I know that there are lots of people out there who do not have this, cordial relationship with their parents, and I have a few of them that I would like to read out, but because this is a very, very delicate topic, I'd like to leave names out of it. Let's just hear the story and react to it together. So, this first story, it's quite long, so stay with me. Let's do this together. So this person says, well, I had the sweetest childhood. My father was barely around, not like he wanted not to be around, but man gats hustle to keep his family going. True. My dad had a very nice job. Only he was 5-6 months out of 1 month kind of dad. So he was home for like 1 month in 5-6 months. Okay. We were always with our mom. She was so sweet at first, but suddenly got too harsh, cold and careless. Thank God I had siblings, all older than I was. Oh, so this person is the last born. Okay. My dad was so far, yet the sweetest. Even though we were used to him not being around, we prayed for him to come back. Spending like 3 days with us, we already want him to go back because he disturbs a whole lot. You're confusing me. Do you like your dad or your mom? My mom always wanted to be in shop, not minding how we were. Although we had people taking care of us as kids, my dad was providing really well, so she was there with us. but we did not really like her. You did not really like your mom or the person who was taking care of you. And we always did things on our own till now. Feels being strict with children is the best. Oh, your mom. Okay. So we actually trained ourselves. You trained yourselves. 6. After those people taking care of us. This person is confusing me with this story. So let me bring you up to light. Her dad is not the dad that stays at home as much. He goes out and comes back like once in 6 months. He's like home once in 6 months. So they basically grew up with their mom. And their mom was sweet at first, but training 6 children, like I said, not everybody is opportune to have a large family and still feel the love, like equal love amongst all siblings. Do you get? So according to what I've read so far, it feels like she grew up with her siblings majorly. Her siblings were more like her parents because her dad was barely at home and her mom cared more about her business than how she cared about the family. And then there were people in the house taking care of them. However, she didn't like the idea of, being taking care of people and stuff. So let's continue. So we actually trained ourselves for those people. Okay. After those people taking care of us left, without even knowing, I got my first period till date. So your mom didn't even know when you got your first period. Oh, this is a girl. Till date, maybe she knows I have now, because normally I suppose don't. I'm sorry, I'm very bad at reading or speaking pidgin English, so it takes me a while to understand. Forgive me. I don't have anything aside from a black dress that I can say my mom got for me. Ouch. Not even on days. Yet she backed us up with prayers and always soars higher for us outside, but inside compared us with others. Oh, she speaks highly of them outside. But whenever she comes back home, she compares. That's the worst kind of parenting. You know when your mom or your father would always be like, "Don't you see this person? Or don't you see this person? See how this person is behaving? Or see how that hits different. That hurts differently. Like when, I can imagine. My daddy is not really in the pics because he was not really there. He only knew that he has to give to his family. Yes, I don't blame him. I blame him. He planned everything with her and she agreed. Oh, okay. Our education till date isn't her business. All she knows is that her children are going weak in school. They had graduated this one, is that and that. Oh, okay. So this person's English is not clear. I promise you I'm very good at reading. This person's English is not clear. She's using all slangs and all these things. So she also comes from a family of 6 and her mom doesn't care about, their educations and stuff. Their parents don't care about their educations and stuff. And from what I can see here, this person sounds like a really young person, maybe 20, 21, 22. And is still hurt by, her child upbringing. Cooks food, not minding whether we eat from it or not. More of a self-centered person. Her mom is more of a self-centered person. Now my dad is no longer working because he will be 70. Yes, he married late. Oh. All the money he was giving to her to take care of the home and do business, she can't bring out a dime. Yes, my daddy was this 80 to 20 kind of man. Gives her 80% of his salary with a plan and keep 20. Wow. She will claim to do what he asks her to do and end up doing nothing for us. Now he is no longer working and she is now giving attitude and impressions of being superior, yet nothing. Now is even worse. In school, no calls. She has never sent me a dime since I gained admission till date. She's in her 200 level. Nor send me food or give me a penny to pay transport fare. Not just me though, everybody. Many other things she did to make one wish or pray their parents should divorce. Oh. Yes, we wished for it. She and her sibling. Oh, Jesus. I thought I was going to start with a happy story. Although her method gave us independence, but it was too much, right? Still trying my best or our best to get there, and also to what normally parents expect from their children. So I love my father big time more than my mom. The reason we don't have a perfect one in terms of mother-children relationship is because of her. I don't know how to end it, but I hope this will help. My teenage till now, not really good, but my childhood was perfect. They forgot even as a teenager, we were still growing. I don't know what to say other than I'm sorry you had to go through something like this. Nobody deserves to go through something like this. I really do hope, I really do hope that you're taking care of yourself, because at the end of the day, I want you to have the mindset of everything you're doing it for yourself because you want a brighter future and because you didn't have it the best way while growing up. I'd want you to work as hard as you can. I know you probably started, your life at a very early age, trying to provide for yourself, trying to take care of yourself. From your message, you sound like a really young person. And I just want to let you know that you're not alone and that things will get better with time. You have gone through the hardest part already. So just keep doing you. Just keep doing you and things will get better. It was tough. Like I said, I know that most people do not really have the best childhood growing up. As a matter of fact, 80% of Nigerian children right now didn't really have a good childhood. Most of the times when you see people trying to do things for themselves, you hear their parents bragging about it, but only a very, very few of these people had their parents actively participating in their life as children, like growing children. This person, imagine someone who is already 21, 22, still remembers what happened to her as a child or while growing. Imagine a female child not liking her mother and praying for her parents to divorce. It goes a long way to tell how bad or how poorly her environment as a growing child was. And I feel really sorry for her. And all I can say is just continue to do your best. You've gone through the worst already, and just know by yourself that you already know that, it's on you right now. Whether you do it right or not, it's on you as it stands. So just keep doing you. You didn't really have, a good childhood. Your childhood doesn't really have much to say on your future, right? Just continue doing your best and you'll get there, okay? Let's move on to the next story. Please, I hope this story is a happy one. Let this story be a happy one, please. I nearly cried with the first story I just read. Please. Okay, this person says, I'm from a nuclear family consisting of my father, my mother, and 4 adorable daughters, which includes me. If I'm to come back into a family, I'm still going to choose this one. I'm still going to choose this one though, because I never had a very strict parent growing up or a hectic childhood. Oh, we have a happy story. My mom was the lioness of the house. She did all the discipline, so we grew up being more scared of my mom than we were of my dad. But even at that, she was still the voice of her daughters. My dad, on the other hand, appeared to be the shepherd. He nurtures his sheep, but was never the spare the rod and spoil the child dad. Maybe because we were all girls, he has never for once laid his hands on any of us. From our birth till we grew. Good. If we do something extreme, he would rather take the case to my mom, who is the Indavoski of the house, to scold us and not punish us because she can't punish us when he's around. Growing up, my dad was the traveler. Why are the dads always the travelers? I wouldn't want my husband to be far from my kids. I know, even at that, I wouldn't want my husband to be far from my kids. Please, no. My dad was also a traveler until he became older, right? I know. He's always traveling to other states because of his kind of job. So my mom does the dealing with us, and he's mostly not around. It's I and my elder sister that really received premium beating. when we Oh my god. Where am I? When we go wrong, she would give us food to eat, then wait till midnight when we then wait till midnight when we're fast asleep. We don't we don't have a cane in my house, but we have all shades of bitter lipstick. She would come to our room, lock the door, and and give us the beating of our lives. Then she'll massage our bodies and leave. This is a typical African Nigerian parent. I'm sure if a white person is reading this story, they'll probably be, why not call the cops? But we know what it is like. We can relate. I must confess, my parents are sweet souls. Even with the beating, my mom wasn't still strict. She still allows us to do our things, but when we go haywire, then we face the consequences. That's good. My childhood was a memorable one. My younger sisters enjoyed the best of my parents because my mom didn't even raise her hand on them like she did with me and my elder sister. Okay, so I feel like there's maybe an age gap difference between, the first two daughters and the last two daughters. That's what I can read from from what the story is saying. Because my mom didn't even raise her hands on them like she did with my elder sister and I. Maybe she got tired, but she knows we can look after them. Yeah. Even till date, she's still the lioness of the house, though, because her decision stands. Ah, okay. So with this, I don't think you need to raise a hand on a kid before they learn to be disciplined. Little things like the bombastic side eye from moms, the body languages, the raise of voices when you go wrong, and the knocks on the heads goes a long way. I know, right? First of all, I'd like to say different things, different method works for different children. There are literal children that you would have that you feel like the devil is working inside these children. Like, if you'd literally say, or for example, there could be maybe growing up, you were the kind of child that maybe you do something really wrong and they flog the hell out of you. And then you cry. When you stop crying, you go back and do the same thing. So imagine the kind of work it takes for a parent to, try to bring you back to your senses. So different method works for different people. Some people would say, you don't have to hit a child before the child will learn. But I say that you know your child the best. You know what works for your child. I'm not saying you should flog the child to sense comes, but if that's what you need to do, there are different means of correcting children, including beating the child. Let's be honest. We're African, so let's just be honest. I don't think I would have the strength to beat a child. I'd leave that to my husband to do, right? But I still feel like if a child needs to be beaten for him to come back to his senses, then do it. But I'm not saying that, there, of course, there are situations where you can just, sit down with the child, talk to the child, and then children learn. Different children have different means of learning. So whatever works for your child, you know your child better than anyone else. So you know what works for your child, do what works for your child, but still be careful not to inflict the kind of injury that the child would have, if not physically, but like emotionally for a long period of time. While correcting your child, don't do it to the extent where you lose the connection or the intimacy between your child as a parent and a child kind of relationship. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah. So moving on to the next story. I hope this is a happy one too. I enjoyed that laugh. Like, I wish I had read that story first before the one I wanted to cry. Hi, good morning. This is my story. Firstly, I love how I was raised and won't want it any other way. But something I won't want is the lack of money aspect. I know, right? I always tell God that I was raised in a very comfortable home. We were six and we were able to go through primary, secondary, university. My father right now has 5 graduates, and my younger brother is almost a graduate. He's in the Navy school somewhere. You know how much school fees they pay in a private Navy university. So in as much as, we're not Dangote standard, right? But I grew up in a family where our basic needs were always provided for us. And in as much as, we, now that we have gone through our Gen Z, our last topic was Gen Z, so I wouldn't want to say much on it, but our Gen Z these days, I would want us to, in as much as, you could come from a really good background, or you could not come from a really good background. However, still try to provide for yourself, because you know that a family is going to come from you, not just yourself, your friends, because you know that tomorrow the people your children are going to refer to as connection is the friends that you have right now, or the friends you make in the future. So while you are winning, make sure your circle is winning too, and just know that you should know by yourself the kind of life that you went through. If you would want the same thing for your child, good or bad, then now is the time to begin to work towards it. Let's get back to the story. My childhood wasn't all rosy and smooth, but even in all the ups and downs, we had love. Oh, I never for once saw my parents argue and not settle like immediately. Me too. Sometimes I still ask my mom till date, like, when do you people used to quarrel? Is it when we are sleeping? Or maybe, like, do you guys go out and quarrel and come back? Because most times when you have like little arguments and stuff, before you know, they just stop talking. I'm like, do you people go and continue the arguments later when we are sleeping, or that's just how the arguments die? It's something I would really want to emulate. Like in the long run, moving forward, when I eventually start my family, I'd want to have the kind of a household where my children wouldn't get to witness us have our ugly moments. Do you understand? And this is exactly what's happening here right now. I never for once saw my parents argue and not settle like immediately. My dad is the most gentle man on earth. My dad too. My prayer then as a child is to marry a partner like my father. Me too. Oh my God. My family was not always having it all. Sometimes we sleep hungry. Sometimes we sleep extra filled. I grew up crying with my mom when things are bad. We pray together, go to people's, her friends' place to ask for help, and so on. Oh. And there was a day when we went out around 6 a.m. just so we could trek and reach the woman's place we were going to on time. And we got close to the woman's place, at the woman's house, at around 8:30. That's trekking for 2 hours, 30 minutes. Jesus Christ. And the car drove out of the street. And my mom was like, that is the woman we were going to meet. That we will go now. And I suggested that we should still go. We got there, and truly it was her and her husband was home standing outside the balcony. And my mom greeted him and said, please, can we come inside and talk to him? This man said no, and that we should please leave, that his wife is not around. I don't know if he had a fight with his wife or whatever. He was just so rude, coupled with the fact that he knows my mom. I was embarrassed and disappointed, so I think this is like a first child. My mom now said, please, even if it's 200 naira, sir, please, we don't have transport. And the man said he doesn't have. And my mom and I was about to leave when the woman's brother sneaked out to give us 200 and told my mom that he is sorry about everything. Immediately he went back inside. We started crying. Oh. I thought it was going to be a happy story. That day, I said to myself that whatever I have and make in this life, I owe my parents. My dad had a job of 40K that time, and my mom was selling food too. My parents were hardworking. They never allowed us beg for food from neighbors, and we understood them. It was just my immediate younger brother that would be grumpy if he doesn't see what to eat on time. I was always the understanding child, and I loved it because it made me see life and know not to expect anything, but work to achieve everything. Wow. My schooling was a off and on something. I think my whole life as a young child, I attended 3 different schools and did just 3 to 4 classes in secondary school. Wow. And then I started working. I had a job that paid me 12,000 naira. After receiving every and any salary, I give it all to my mom. Good child. Good child. There was one Christmas that it was all the money I got from work that we used for Christmas celebration. That's the 12,000 naira you got from work. That's crazy. My dad cried that he couldn't provide for that year for Christmas, and I told him not to cry, that I'm here to wipe their tears with the little I had and more to come. And then the next year was much better. My siblings were all enrolled in school, and I was and it was that they started earlier than me, and they were going to be able to complete their education without stopping. My dad got a better job. I applied for school and got admission. One thing about my dad then was that anytime he couldn't provide or give what we need at that time, he gets angry any little thing. Any little thing makes him frustrated. My mom would pray and keep us happy. She would support him with words of encouragement. It was beautiful. I would say life was perfect, even though it wouldn't sound right to some people, but for us, it was. We were disciplined when needed. We were loved every time. We were taught how to pray when things are too hard on us, and we were spoilt with money when it was available. It was a lot, and I'm grateful for my parents because nothing hits me right now that I can't just brush off. So according to this person, she had a pretty rough childhood. But one thing that she never lacked was parent love. Here's the thing. Most times, it's not exactly the money that brings happiness. Although I would say 90% or 80% of the time, when you're able to provide for your family, or when you're able to, do the basic things that you need to do for your family, it keeps the family going and it makes things easier. But at the same time, the 20% that's not money, or the 40% that shouldn't be money, should be about love and concern. There is nothing as good as growing up with parents who are concerned, who are active in your life. Do you understand? Like, to a very large extent, when you hear kids saying, "Oh, my mom did this for me, my mom did that for me," you should also be able to say, even if you didn't have money as at then, you should be able to say, "Oh, my mom braided my hair," or "My mom did this for me," or "My mom did that for me, made meals for me," and stuff like that. So, I particularly like this story. This story could actually be made into a movie. And because it's a really beautiful one. I'm saying it's like the most beautiful. Okay, I'm not going to say because everybody's story is different, but like, I find this story pretty interesting because in as much as they didn't have the money, they had love, and the love was enough for them. Imagine someone who didn't grow up with money, still, liking and loving her environment, or loving the parents or the family where she comes from. It all goes down to her parents giving her all the support and all the love that she and her siblings needed at that particular time. That wasn't really money wise. It was a really, really, really good story. I enjoyed this story the most. This story is not mine to tell, right? But I have a story about my friend. I'm not going to say, I'll try my best not to mention anything that is going to try to reveal this person's image. I'm just saying this story because I feel like it should be aired. It's not my story to tell, so I have no rights to mention anybody's name. So let's just say this is a fictional story, right? This person comes from a family of 5, 6. She's the second child, and I practically grew up with this particular person, and right from when we were little, she has always been treated like the black sheep of the family. You know, when your siblings do wrong, they flog you instead of your siblings. And then when they're like, you, for example, you have a younger sister, right? And then she goes out and comes back pretty late. Already your siblings don't respect you. Like her younger siblings don't respect her because of how her parents treat her. Like they would literally sit her in the parlor with her other siblings and then begin to cuss her out, call her all sorts of. Imagine your father calling you an ashawo, or calling you a slut, or like trying to slut shame you in the presence of your younger siblings. It's definitely your father is indirectly telling them, you see this girl, do not respect her, treat her like trash. At some point, I was asking her, are you sure these are your parents? But because of the resemblance, she literally looks like her mom. So there is no way you would say this girl is adopted. That they can't be treating her like this. So till today, I still feel like they should take her parents for deliverance. Let's see, maybe the devil poisoned them or something happened along the way, because she had the toughest childhood anybody can experience. They would cook. Everybody will share the food. Before she comes back from, first of all, she was the only one that went to a government school. All her siblings went to private schools. Every single one of them except her. She went to a government school. She would trek from the house to school and trek back. Even till now, she still doesn't have body. She's very skinny. It's even now that, she's in university, and then, we're all trying to do things for ourselves and get ourselves where we want to be. She would literally trek to school, come back, there would be no food. They would have eaten. They would eat, wash the plate and clean everything, and do as if there was no food in the house to start with. And then whenever they cook, you hear the younger woman saying, I cooked, nobody should go and open my pot of food, or literally talking to her like, don't go to the pot of food to eat. So most times she would come to my house and be like, sometimes she would even come with her school uniform to my house and be like, she just came back from school. And because my mom already knew that, this kind of a thing was happening. So most times when my mom used to cook at that time, she'll cook enough for me and her. So most times when I come back from school, I'd wait for her to come so that we could eat together and stuff. And then she will still go back home. They will still beat her for coming back home late, knowing fully well that they do not even have food for her in the first place. Do you understand? And this is your own child. And then for someone who experienced this kind of childhood where your younger siblings don't respect you, you could literally be talking and they'll be talking back at you and they'll be like, who are you to tell me this? Who are you to do? This is someone who literally, like, you have like a 5 years age gap between she and her younger siblings. But the way you hear her the age gap between myself and my younger brother is like 3 years. But my younger brother is very big, he's very tall and, like way bigger than me. But there is no way, they never born and when they talk, make you open your mouth. Do you understand? Because it's the kind of family that we came from. He's in the Navy school. I literally just said it how many minutes ago. And he still whenever he comes home, if I tell him go and wash plates, they're not born and when made before he stands up. Do you understand? I feel like it's, to a large extent, it comes from the upbringing, the kind of family you come from. Imagine when the last one should be her mother's last child she should give that guy, like, if it's too small, 7-8 years. And then when he wakes up in the morning, he'll be looking at her, expecting her to say good morning to him. Do you understand? And then when I try to tell her that you need to be strict with these people, in as much as your parents are not trying to, do anything about it. When you beat them, when your parents come back and then they report to them, they will flog you for flogging your younger sibling. Do you know? And I'm like, in as much as it has come to this, I feel like you should still establish the fact that you are their senior. And she said to me, there is no point in trying. That once she tries to discipline them, when her parents come and they report, it only backfires on her. Like they begin to beat her and other things like that. So she basically grew up in a house where she didn't have love from her parents, and her younger siblings also did not respect her. And then now that she's grown, she started working. She started working at a very, in fact, although I started hustling too at a very young age, but she was hustling based on being desperate, because if she didn't work, she had nothing. Do you understand? Like, she was working. I was working because I felt like I needed to start taking care of myself and stuff like that. But she was working based on, if you no work, you no go chop. Do you understand that kind of a scenario coming from someone who is not just a female child, but a growing female child? She was exposed, like if she had opportunity to have been, mistreated. When guys will say, "Oh, come, let me give you 10,000 naira. Come and sleep with me. I'll give you 10,000 naira." If she was someone who didn't, who didn't have the kind of discipline that she had for herself, she would have been someone who would have, done a lot of things. And I wouldn't even blame her I wouldn't have the minds to blame her, because I know the kind of family she comes from. That's why I keep saying that most times all these people that you see on the street, all these girls that you see on the street, most of them, it's not like they want to be on the street. It's just that that's their only option, or that they have chosen that to be their only option to be there because of the kind of upbringing that they must have had as a child. Okay, now that she's growing, she started working, started seeing a little bit of change, put money for herself. Sometimes she just comes home and then she has she has her money to cook for herself, and now her family is seeking closure. She called me the other day that her mom called her one day and was asking her how is she doing in school. She said she felt so weird that why is this woman, imagine your mom calling and you're like, why is this woman calling me? And she says it feels so weird when they call her their daughter, because she knows what she has got, what she went through as a child. And she says that she feels like they don't even deserve to be called her, like they don't deserve for her to call them, my mom or my dad and stuff. And now that she's grown, they're trying to overlook all the things that they have done to her as a child. They want to have this cordial relationship. They want to know what she's up to. They want to know if she's talking to anybody and everything. But she says that that's very, very inhumane of them to try to want to forget everything they did to her as a child. And just because she's older now, they feel like she doesn't remember all the things they did to her as a child, that there is no way in hell that she doesn't see it. She said she doesn't see herself having a conversation with her mom or her siblings or anybody, because the relationship wasn't established as a child. Is it when she's 25, 26 that she wants to now start having that kind of relationship, to want to talk to her parents and want to let them know what's happening in her life? That whenever her dad asks her things like, how are you doing, that she feels very uncomfortable, because this is something that for 20 something years they never ever asked her. That why are they trying to try to act like they have a cordial relationship when they don't. Every single time she comes back from school, she's always in my house, because she already feels like an outcast in her house. And then you hear her mom bragging about her outside, like, oh, my child don't almost finish school. She did find, like, sometimes her mom still talks to me. I'm like, oh, your friend don't almost finish school now. When I'm like, you don't even know how this girl suffered to gain this admission in the first place. So my mother will be like, yes, she's getting there. She's almost there. But because I know what she went through as a child, it also I feel very awkward, and I feel very ashamed on her mom's behalf that you have the mind to talk about your child outside, like your child is doing very well, but you as a parent, you had little or no contribution in that child's life. Now imagine if tomorrow she gains a very big position, maybe she begins to work very well and she's earning very well, and then you find out that she doesn't come and support you. You now start saying, she's not doing this for you, she's not doing that for you. But as a child, you didn't give her anything. It's like you want to harvest where you did not plant. It's not possible. For example, let's say she has money now. She's trying to give to people. You don't expect her to come to you and give you anything. Or as a father, you never ever had a cordial relationship with your son or anything, and then suddenly your son is making money and you want to be the center of you want to be at the center of his life. It doesn't work like that. When most of the things that we're still growing, even when we get to 30, 40, we're still considered as growing children. When we get to that age, most times, that's why you see most male children don't have relationships with their father. They'll be like, you ask them, how's your father? He there now, he there alive. Because they don't have that established cordial relationship, a father and son kind of relationship. And this is just to my generation. Please, while growing up, if you're not ready to have children, don't have children. When you begin to have children, please make sure that the kind of love or the kind of experience you had growing up as a child, if it's a good one, please try to pass it on to your child. If it's a bad one, try to establish the kind of relationship that you wish you had with your parents. Try to establish that kind of relationship with your child. If you're a mom, you have a growing child. When you know that when she begins to turn 11, 12, you would know that maybe she would begin to see her period, and then she'll begin to have hormonal changes and all those things. I don't want to get into sciences, but you know that her body begins to respond to puberty and everything like that. Always try to be there, because you know that when you were growing up, you didn't have people, you didn't have your mom, sit you down and tell you, oh, this is how it's going to be. That's why most times when children come back with pregnancy, they'll begin to cuss the child out and say, and this is, in as much as, as a human being, we're supposed to have our own sense. But to a very large extent, most of our first teachers are our parents. Before we begin to go to school and try to acquire knowledge and all those things, we first start from our parents, which is our first, the first teachers we have in life, our parents. So you as a young person now, while you grow, you know that when you were growing up, your mom didn't talk to you about, periods and pregnancies and sex and, sex education and stuff like that. You can still find a way to have these conversations with your child without, trying to be awkward. Or in fact, if you develop a cordial relationship with your child from a very young age, you would find out that there is nothing you want to talk about with your child that would even seem awkward either to you or your child. That's why you end up seeing people that they say, who's your best friend? That's why Americans, you hear people saying, my mom is my best friend. Do you think it's just because she wants to say because they had an opportunity to establish the kind of a relationship whereby you can talk to me as your mom. You can talk to me about basic things as your mom. Talk to me about, when you begin to have sex as a teenager or as an adult or whatever. You should be able to have the kind of relationship with your child that they'll be able to come to you with their personal problems instead of going outside. That's why most times you see people that say, that their children are this, their children are that. In as much as me, I know say, you not get as you want to be child will go spoil. Do you understand? But to a very large extent, you have, as a parent, you have 80% of the job to bring up your child in the way that you want your child to grow. I have said a lot, and I feel like if I continue talking, I'll talk from now to tomorrow. So in order to just round up everything that we have, been saying so far, I would just say that the kind of childhood you had while growing up. You know where you are right now as a person, and you know where you would want your child to be in the future. Or when you begin to have children, you would know the kind of life you want your child to have. Please work towards giving your child the basics. Even if you didn't have the basics as a grown-up child, the past is already in the past for you. You're all mature now and you can take care of yourself. But you know how difficult it was for you to get to where you are right now. So please, whatever it is or whatever wrongdoings that you felt like your parents passed on to you, I'm sure that you would want to not pass the same thing to your child. So Gen Z or millennials or whichever generation, when you begin to take on, or when you decide to take on the role of parenting, please take it on with all seriousness. Do all the basic things that you need to do as a parent to your child, and hopefully the generation continues and the love continues, and the everything that a family or parent-child experience is supposed to have. You continue to pass it on from generations to generations. Guys, if there is any other topic that you would want me to talk about, or you have stuff to share with me, please do leave it in the comment section or contact us. We will definitely, or you have a story that you want to tell us and you want me to talk about in maybe coming episodes, let me know about them, and I'll be very much happy to share my opinions. And I'm sure a lot of people would also be happy to, share their opinions and how to help you and move forward from where you are to where you want to be. Thank you guys so much. If you didn't subscribe at the beginning of this video, now is another opportunity to subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button, like and comment. Thank you guys. See you in my next episode. Bye. Please give me water. No, hot night water, please. Thank you.